What's up, guys? Welcome to Creator Spotlight Episode 3 featuring Nic Pachunka, all the way from the other side of the planet, Phoenix, Arizona. What's up, Nick? Thanks for being on the show.
How we doing? Thanks for having me on. It's great talking to you again.
Indeed.
Been friends for quite a while, yeah.
Yeah, we've known each other on YouTube for like, what, 2 years?
At least.
At least 2 years?
Yeah.
What's funny is that we talk a lot, and like we never actually met in person. So through the power of the internet, this is possible. Having a friend on the other side of the planet, which is really cool. But yeah, let's, without further ado, let's get right into it, man. For those who've never seen your channel, tell us a little something about you, what your channel is, and what you do on it.
I first started off on YouTube. I first kind of started off with basically filmmaking. I was really into like Film Riot, Indie Mogul, all those do-it-yourself, DIY filmmaker channels, and I love the aspect of that. Actually, in high school, it was pretty cool. We have a media program there, and that really kind of got me into things, kind of got me going. It was a really good place to learn the basics, and then from there, I can go and teach myself with tutorials and everything like that. And, just kind of having a personal mentor, be able to ask the basic questions, without taking 10 years to look up the questions. That's where I kind of got started there. And then from there, I kind of evolved into this like tech and PC desk setup kind of thing. And now I'm kind of going full roundhouse back into the filmmaking, just because that's kind of what my roots are. And I love traveling, I love filmmaking, and I love sharing how to do each of those. So that's pretty much where I stand now.
Yeah, I've seen your content style, change over the years, and like it's especially now you're kind of like exploring a lot of new stuff. So you've been on YouTube for a while. Did your motivations change behind creating content? Did your motivations change over the years? I mean, I'm sure it did, but how did it change?
For sure. In any creative field, whether you're an artist that paints, a photographer, videographer, anything, in my opinion, like I think every single creator, you're going to have your ups and downs. Like you're never going, at least in my opinion, unless you're on some crazy drugs or something, you're never going to be able to have that motivation all the time. So I think it's really a matter of like creating that motivation for yourself, and also recognizing when it's time to take a break. You take that break, but don't let it last too long. So that's kind of where I stand on that stuff. Like even over the break, the holidays, I was planning on creating a bunch of content, but to be honest with you, I'm like, this is going to be a good time to hang out with a lot of my friends and family. I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take a break, spend that important time you need. And then, I'm ready to go now, obviously with everyone in their New Year's resolutions.
we were talking about this last year, and like, a lot of us, I guess, creative people, like at the start of the year, we're so pumped to do it. But the secret is to sustain that energy throughout the entire year and not get burnt out. So I don't know, man. Like, how do you stay like super passionate about, all this?
Here's how I do it. A lot of people, they get this like, let's do it motivation, right?
Yeah.
But it's a matter of taking that, putting it in a bottle, and slowly leaking it out when you want it and when you need it. Because for me, like, I have a big long list of videos, like probably close to 50 video ideas right now. You can't see them because they're top secret. But so when I get all this super good motivation and I have this amazing idea, I see a video that I like, I want to create something that's in that same idea, I write it down. So when I get this motivation, I can spread it out. For me, I upload at least once a week. That's the goal, at least. Whether it happens is another thing. I think I've been fairly consistent, but so it's a matter of just taking that bottle and leaking it out when you need it and when you have the time to use it. So that's kind of how I would word it, and big benefit that I've noticed myself.
So what inspired you to actually start this whole thing? I mean, you've been doing it. So was there one event that inspired you to actually start a channel?
So this is like a question I get all the time. Like, who inspired you? What inspired you? Yeah. And to be honest, it was never a single thing other than the idea that I don't want to be working for someone in the future. I swear to God, my biggest fear is a cubicle. Like, I don't know what it is, but like working at a desk and like, yeah, I'm working at a desk now, but it's in my own hours. I get up and move when I'm taking, doing videos and stuff like that. It's hands-on. It's the desk job thing. It scares the shit out of me, man. So hands down, my biggest motivation to get, YouTube being a full-time job. And yes, it takes the amount of time as a full-time job, but it definitely doesn't pay it quite yet.
But you've been doing a lot of like freelance work.
Yes.
For clients.
Yeah, that's actually, I've been doing a lot of that on the side. I do like real estate video. Where I live here in Phoenix, it's a very prevailing market. So with not very much competition. So it's pretty beneficial in that regard. So that's the breadwinner. But ultimately, YouTube is where I want to be, where I'm putting most of my eggs right now, because I love it myself. And there wasn't like a person there was people along the way, of course. Like right now I watch people. I'm sure you watch people. I'm sure everyone that's watching this video is watching, a handful of people that they're really inspired by. I'm the same, but there wasn't like a single thing or a single action that really changed that, other than that seed in my head that, well, okay, because I started this this whole channel thing probably right when I started high school, and that gives me, I don't know how you guys have high school set up around the world, but for me, it's you have 4 years in high school, then you're off to college, which is another 4 years if you plan on choosing.
Same,
yeah. Okay, so if you plan on doing college, because I don't know, Germany and they have different stuff there. Right. I have no idea. So that was the biggest single thing that went, okay, all right, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm gonna do it, and you just have to do it, man. Like there's no way to baby it or make it any easier. It's just you just gotta have the patience.
Oh yeah, a hell of a lot of patience, man.
Oh.
When you were first starting out, was there a time that you were sort of embarrassed to tell people what you did, or like were you afraid of what they would think? Because you did YouTube, as a kid a while back. You were telling me stories about it, and I'm sure, like, okay, right now it's cool to be a YouTuber or a content creator, but like maybe back then it wasn't exactly the same. And walking around with a camera, pointed towards yourself, I guess it may look funny at sometimes,
Yeah. So right now, as you said, I think YouTubers are the modern day rock stars. They're in this niche they're not like where everyone knows. Oh, okay. Everyone knows about them, but not everyone participates in going to the concerts and everything like that. You have your little bands that you work together, like me and you. I have a creative circle. Everyone has their creative circle. It's super interesting how in the fact that like today they're YouTubers like super cool and like, oh, you're a YouTuber and you make a living doing it. It's like, I mean, how many people do you hear now? What do you want to do when you grow up?
Right.
I want to be a cowboy.
I want to be an astronaut. I still want to be an astronaut, man.
And a YouTuber. So it's super interesting just hearing that and how it's developed over time. And I just think it's super cool. But when you first get started, things are a little different. You're not exactly viewed as seriously. I mean, for me personally, now versus when I first started, people actually take me somewhat seriously now. Before, it was, let's just say, the opposite. It actually wasn't very pretty. I was embarrassed to talk about it. I mean, I was cool with it around my family and stuff. I wasn't one of those guys that hid it, from my family, like, oh, I don't want them to know, or I don't want my friends to know about it. And if, you don't feel comfortable with that, that's perfectly fine. I could understand why. Over time, I completely think your opinions will change. But from the beginning, you definitely start off embarrassed. And one of these big things that really screwed with me was I don't want to, be that guy, but I was actually bullied about it. I'm not even joking.
Oh, no way.
So in that media class I was talking to you about, for the most part, it was great. The kids were awesome there, but there was this handful of little piece of, let's just say,
oh, come on. It's high school. It's
they're the worst, man. People are awful. Kids are awful. Oh, God, man. But so you got to remember. So my biggest fear is not being in a cubicle. So I'm putting my passion, my grit, everything I got into this YouTube channel and still sucking at it at the time. I mean, you're always going to start off like that. It's easy to make fun of someone starting off on YouTube because they have no following, they have no talent. Okay, talent's a little bit different. They have no skill, I would say. And it's super easy to make fun of these people. And I was a target. I was one of these people. And every time I uploaded a video, they would go in, dislike it, comment. And they're sitting in the room with me as they're doing this. So my heart's just sinking, like 1 like, right? Which is my mom. And then I have 20, which is all these other kids. So it's so like disheartening. But
yeah, I can
like
imagine.
I knew deep down inside someday I am going to show these little shits wrong. And they're gonna pray that they didn't do this, right? But so here we are, skip forward to today.
Yeah,
I get occasional DMs from these kids going, oh man, cool stuff you have there.
You're actually doing
it. In high school, I was kind of a jerk, and I'm really sorry, that I treated you the way I did. And part of me is like, I really hope they're not trying to like exploit me now that I'm actually getting somewhere in life. I don't know if that's what it is. But I think most of the time they're being pretty honest about it, because as you mature and you get into college, you realize all of the shitty things you did in your past.
Totally.
And I think that's what a lot of these kids started doing. And then, they were letting me know. And I think it's really cool of them to go through and do that, in my opinion. But it really goes to show how, if you really are passionate about something, do not care what people think about it. Because, I mean, look at that situation. All these kids were making fun of me and everything, and now I'm the cool kid, right? Like, well, at least I think I am. Probably not.
In your own world. No, but in all seriousness, like,
it's...
Okay, let me, like, the way I think about it, like, I think it's cool to disregard, that feedback that isn't constructive at all, especially when you're starting out. But I don't know. For me, I care what people think if they're being constructive. If it's constructive criticism, I think it's good to understand and be aware of your impact, like on the world. But that's just me.
No, I'm completely with you on that. It's when it comes to feedback, that responding to hate comments. That's another one of those bigger questions. People starting off on YouTube, how do you deal with the hate? It's the quick and easy answer is you have the comments that are like, oh, you're fat, you're ugly, you're whatever. I mean,
right.
You've heard it all. I mean, if you've been on the YouTube platform for any,
you've been on the internet in general, you've probably heard it all. Like, no one's a stranger to mean comments on the internet.
So what I do with those kinds of comments is I just ignore them. I'm not the one to delete them. If you want to delete them, go for it. Like, I'm not the one to tell you what to do there. Yeah. I just leave them up because I personally don't care. Occasionally with those comments, I'll reply all in good fun.
Troll the trolls, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's never from the heart. It's all just to have fun with it. And a lot of the times they're doing it just to get your attention, which I find to be really weird. Mm-hmm. But people do it. Like, they'll say this horrible, nasty thing, and then you go, I can't believe you tell me that, or, whatever it is. And they'll be like, oh, I love your channel, by the way. Great video. And it's like, what? All they were trying to do is get a reaction out of you. And that's why when it comes to the YouTube platform or any social media influencing at all, at least in my opinion, the biggest reason I'm doing it is for the reaction of the audience. It's you put something in, what are you going to get out? Right. And that's why feedback is important. That's why you do have to take it into consideration, because there is feedback that is actually valuable. There is feedback that they can provide, as you were saying, where you can actually sit and think, do you need to act upon that? Not necessarily. But you should always consider content or comments that are always, if they're there to genuinely try to help you, you don't have to agree with them, but at least take it into consideration. That would be my opinion on that.
In your travels, Nick, you've met some like incredible content creators, people who I personally look up to. You've met quite a few people. What are some of the biggest takeaways in your conversations with these?
I think there is a good and a bad of meeting your heroes. Mm-hmm. It's good in the sense that you get to understand reality, but it's bad in the sense you have to understand reality. If that makes any sense to you. But the reason why, like, so when you meet these YouTubers, obviously you look up to them. You think they're the rock star gods, and sometimes
it must be intimidating though. Like, is it not?
Oh yeah. When I first started meeting like the bigger million plus, Unbox Therapy and all the big guys out there, it's really like, oh wow, look at that mythical beast over there. Like I didn't even know. Like it's weird seeing like watching someone daily or weekly or whatever, however often they upload, and then they're just standing there next to you, and you're like, what? This feels so weird. And then you start to get nervous, and you're like, oh shit, hopefully I don't mess anything up. But over time, you get used to it, and you understand that people are just people. But when it comes down to meeting these YouTubers, you kind of have to step in lightly and be careful, because there's a lot of these YouTubers that I look up to, or I should say used to look up to. I met them in person, and let's just say they weren't exactly as they were in person versus online.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big difference between their energy level, they're willing to start a conversation, versus in person. I'm not going to name any names here, but there was just a couple situations where I'm like, hey man, nice to meet you. I love your work. And the one guy's like, oh, I got to go. I'm busy right now. It's like, I understand you're busy, but you got to understand there's also a point where it's like, oh yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm glad to meet you. I unfortunately can't really talk right now because I have a meeting with someone. It's just all about how you present. Yeah, it could have been a bad day for that person, but there's also multiple occasions where this similar kind of thing happened. I mean, do you have a way to kind of explain what I'm trying to get across? I don't know.
No, I get it. Like, I guess, it could be right. Maybe that person was just having a bad day. Like, and then you just caught him at the wrong time. That's why he was like low energy.
I think that's entirely possible, but I also think a lot of the cases is the fact that presenting yourself online and presenting yourself in person, they should be fairly similar. That's my personal opinion. Yeah, I up the energy level just a little bit because I'm talking usually about something that I care about. So that's the reason why it is. And one of the people that really kind of put this out to me that was really like, I just kind of brought me home was Unbox Therapy. Lou, I'm sure you've heard of him. Oh yeah. Everyone's heard of Unbox Therapy. So, I'm sitting outside though. So the way events like CES work is you have the companies and you're essentially the news for them. So you're important your opinion online is very, very important to these companies' success, especially when it comes to the Android space and everything like that. And I was outside of a OnePlus party, just waiting for my Uber, and according, this magical mythical beast walks up, Lou, and I'm like, whoa, that's super cool. And by now I was pretty acquainted with talking to the YouTubers and understanding how they work. Little quick side note, they're so much more business minded than I expected. Yeah. I expected them to be more on the creative side, but that also could be because I was more in the tech space with CES and stuff. But they were so much more business minded than I figured, like in a good way, like just entrepreneurial, like learning how to make money where you can and everything like that. Which I think is
that's a very interesting point, Nick, and a very interesting observation because, when you want to take YouTube seriously, you want to build a brand, and et cetera, it's really more of an entrepreneurial venture. You're not just a guy with a camera taking a video. Mm-hmm. You're trying to build something here, and I think it's really important to be business minded. And I guess that's Exhibit A. The people we look up to, the people who have been majorly successful on the platform, are business minded. So. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think anyone that's telling you they want to make YouTube a career and they tell you that they're not doing it for the money is lying. Mm-hmm. But don't get me wrong. There's a way of looking at this. For me personally, if I make money and I live off of it, if I live an okay life, but I'm doing what I love, that's all I care about. But that is still for the money, correct? I'm doing YouTube as a career. And that's where I think people really kind of mix up the idea of doing it for the money or doing it for the rich and doing it for the fame and doing it for the Maseratis and Rolexes, the Logan Paul kind of people. You understand what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah.
I would say most YouTubers aren't in that area. As far as the ones that I've met, they're entrepreneurial in the sense they want to make a good living, but they're not only searching for the fame or the money. They're there because they love doing what they're doing, and they love doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they want to keep doing that and support their family while doing that. So that's why you'll notice they're very entrepreneurial, because this space, it's savage. You have to be able to go and reach out and get what you want and be quick on the dime to be able to reach success and be able to pay the bills even. But I found that really interesting. But back to the unbox therapy thing.
Mm-hmm.
What he was kind of explaining to me, every one of these YouTubers, I made it a goal to ask them, like, what's the one takeaway that you could leave to someone that's trying to make it happen on YouTube?
Right.
And it seems stereotypical, cliche, whatever. But I think it's interesting hearing it from these people in person versus online and stuff like that. Whereas, because their opinions can change quite a bit. The biggest takeaway he gave me was the fact that you should, I mean, a lot of people may disagree with this, and there's different styles of videos that come in incorporating this. But he said, I never script my videos. I used to, but now I don't do it at all. It feels so much more natural, feels so much more personal. It feels so much more me. Because when I'm making a video, I want to speak from the heart. I want to share my true opinion about something. And that really really worked for me, in the sense that at that time I was struggling quite a bit at a lot of people say like trying to find their voice online, but I think it's more of trying to find their true self and learning how to portray that to many people. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think I finally just now figured out. Like, the way I'm talking to you right now is exactly how I'd be talking with you in person if you were literally sitting right next to me.
Exactly.
And maybe I might be pronouncing or enunciating my vowels and everything a little bit better because we're talking to a microphone here. But if I was you in person, I would be talking very, very similar. And he said that's something that is very, very important to your longevity, to your long-term success of being on the platform. Because if you're being a fraud, if you're being fake, people will see right through that. They will shut you down, especially in the long term. It may work in the short term. You may be able to do this, hey, what's up, guys? Super fun, whatever. But you're just going to drain yourself. You're going to think that, like, internally, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I giving this online persona where that's not me? Mm-hmm. And that's why I think he really kind of got to me there, because that was just at the point where I really needed it. And I think it drastically helped me there.
I think, well, of course, it totally depends on the style of channel. Like, obviously, some people really wanted to create a character for their channel. That's totally different. But like what we're talking about here is that, and I think you made a really good point, is that trying to be authentic on a platform that, especially on a style of channel that thrives on being authentic. And
Yeah, there's multiple kinds of channels, and I'm not telling you guys what to do here. I'm only offering advice for people that are creating the similar, I guess, genre of stuff, what I'm trying to do, because there's always going to be like the characters and things like that. That's a whole different thing. But what I'm talking about here is the people that subscribe to personality. And I think that's how most channels are, in my opinion. They subscribe to your personality, and you just so happen to be in the genre they like. That's what I find to be fairly common with most people, at least.
So yeah, that was really good insight. Like, that's definitely one thing I did not expect, because working with other people from other disciplines, like from the film industry or the TV industry, they're used to like creating like super scripted videos. Everything is on the dot. You follow a script, you follow a shot list. Everything is sort of like not organic. And now you have this massively successful YouTuber saying, throw away everything out the window and do your own thing, which is, I don't know. There's really
there's
cool.
A big difference. Don't try to be TV, because this isn't TV. This isn't a scripted storyline. This is you being you and sharing your opinions. Just remember that. That's big right there. Honestly,
I think it's because you know how the production level of YouTube is like going like way higher than what you used to be like 10 years ago. So I guess it's kind of blurring the line between a highly produced show than someone vlogging, or even vlogs are now like crazy production value. Like, so I guess I kind of see the confusion of
It's
how,
easy to blur the
yeah.
lines, and that's why I think a lot of people do it.
So like,
But
were there any other people who you talked to, like, gave you some really interesting advice, similar to that?
um, as far as like mentors, and I'll just do a tiny little tangent here.
Mm,
Armando Ferreira. Pretty sure maybe a lot of you have heard of him. He does a lot of tech. He's kind of diving more into filmmaking, like myself now. And he was the one that really explained to me about the whole YouTuber making money thing,
right.
about how um, being able to, YouTubers are in it for the money, and yes, they are. So he's the one that kind of laid that flat out in the ground with me, and he also reinforced a lot of the things that Lou from Unbox Therapy was talking about regarding the fact that you just need to be authentic and you need to be real, and the way you need to go about doing it is just super important. That you got to be true to yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be true to yourself, and that's something that I think Armando. I think it's really awesome that someone like him was willing to step down and mentor someone like me. I'm not like trying to kiss his ass here or anything, but I think it's genuinely improved what I've been doing myself. Just being able to ask questions here and there. It's besides traveling and going about and experiencing new things around the world,
Mm-hmm.
my second favorite thing is spending time with creative people,
Right.
because the conversations you have, although you may not like remember the exact details, the little things here and there, like, oh, you screw in your tripod plate this way, or oh, you pack your bag this way, or oh, you walk this way with your gimbal, even like
Yeah.
just like the basic things you just wouldn't even second guess, but then you're looking at other people hanging out with them and you're like, whoa, dude, like these little things that just change your opinion and how you go about doing things. I just think it's really interesting being able to hang out with other creative people. So if you know any other creative people, I highly recommend, obviously don't like copy off of each other and everything, but feed off of that same energy and use that motivation to improve what you're doing and work with each other.
Yeah,
Because I think a lot of
definitely.
time, yeah,
Yeah,
go
like,
for it.
even if those people are not in the same field, or even in the same genre of being in YouTube, like, regardless of what genre you are in YouTube, you're a creator and it requires creativity. And I don't know, there's something incredible that happens when you just go with a group of creative people and of like-minded
Man,
people, and just the energy, and it's just kind of like
it
feeds
is
off of each other, and it's
so
amazing.
good.
Yeah.
So good. Going to events like NAB, CES, even just hanging out with other creative people near you, it's just, I feel the most motivated after those kinds of events and after hanging out with other creative people. Just because, especially if they're up there,
Mm.
a lot of times it's a more specific case if you're lucky enough like me to be able to have friends that are up there quite a bit, but that also comes down to the patience card, because I didn't know these people up until a year ago actually, and I've been doing YouTube for 3 years now, and it's a patience game. So just being able to have that patience and building and improving upon what you're doing is so important.
So you've been talking a lot about your stories about meeting these incredible people, and it all sounds amazing. It all sounds fun, but that's just one side of YouTubing, isn't it? Just one
Mm-hmm.
side of it. So when you were starting out, or even today, what are just some of the obstacles you had to overcome in order to be doing what you do now?
This is a good question. I like this because a lot of times people only put their best self out on the internet.
Yeah, you only see like one side of thing, the Instagram angle. you know?
Oh
So,
yeah, I love those images. I saw one the other day of someone, I can't remember his username, but what you see on Instagram, a beautiful photo of a couple on a swing, and they're
right.
overlooking a beautiful lake with mountains, and then the next couple burst photos are them falling off of the swing.
That's nice.
Because what you see is not necessarily the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, one of the harder things is what we just talked about previously, finding your true self. So definitely, we already talked about that quite a bit. Another thing is you need to take that feedback and work upon it. But I would say the most difficult for me personally is time management.
Time management. Oh yeah.
Holy crap. Being a full-time student, working a freelance job that I need to be able to pay the bills with, and doing YouTube at the same time, it's a lot. And being able to manage that is so vital. I have this funny joke going on about YouTube. I call it a full-time side hustle because it's a full-time job without any of the payment.
Right, right.
And that's what it's going to be for almost all of you from the start. So you got to have to recognize that, have the patience, and just got to have that grit. Take breaks when you need it and when you really want it, but bottle up that motivation when you have it and sprinkle it out as you use it. That's without a doubt time management, man. Oh, it's been super killer.
I'm definitely guilty of that. Like that totally kills me. I really need to learn time management. But we'll get there. We'll get there, man. So looking back, would you have done anything differently? Were there any mistakes that you really learned from in your journey?
I mean, there wasn't really anything drastic. There wasn't some crazy PR move that everyone went and freaked out about. I didn't piss anyone off too much. But there was a couple things. So one time, I actually haven't talked to anyone about this yet,
really?
other than in person. It was actually with the Armando collab. And this is one thing that I didn't really think about ahead of time. So I went to Armando Ferrera's house. We filmed the video for my channel. That's up on there now. But we also filmed another video for his. And one thing, it's a pretty simple mistake, but it didn't feel like it at the time, of course. When we were doing this collab, being able to listen to the host and being able to follow along with the host when you're working with other people in a collab video, I learned that big time because I was almost trying to lead the show. Versus like in this case it's a little different because it's more of an interview and you want me to talk here, whereas if you're like both trying to share an opinion about something, you don't want to overpower. And I think the reason why I did this subconsciously was that I was nervous and I was trying to impress his audience, and we ended up scrapping the video ultimately because it just felt off. I was interrupting him when I shouldn't. And there's still no hard feelings with me and Armando. Like, we're still amazing friends. And I was like, oh, man, I'm so sorry. I hope there's really no hard feelings. He's like, bro, just chill out. You're perfectly fine. I think it was a great learning experience for you. Being able to, because I've never really had a real high-profile collab like that before. And being able to do it with a person that's actually a friend was so nice, because if that was with anyone else, they'd be like, what is this kid doing? He's interrupting me. This is turning like trash. I'm never going to talk to him again. But
this is interesting because it kind of reminds me of the time my first ever YouTube appearance was a collaboration with Swashin. It was for Pimp My Setup. And like, it had good feedback. That episode had good feedback. But then a lot of people were saying, it's like, this guy, he sounds like he's trying to be the actual host and not just the co-host. Like, he's talking too much. He's doing this too much. I guess you're right. It's just me trying to impress other people. Me overthinking about what people would, perceive my persona on the show. And like, and the effect was me trying to be overzealous or me trying to take over the show. And I think it's a really good point to just chill out,
take a breather. I think, I think ultimately everyone's first collab's going to be weird. So just accept that fact and move with it. Just have fun, relax, and don't try to over-impress. That's my biggest advice when it comes to collabs. Regarding things that other improvements I could have made, honestly, I'm cynical in the fact that people can be pretty horrible sometimes, but but I'm the complete opposite when it comes to life. You're always going to be making mistakes, but whether or not you learn from it is your choice. So I don't think there's no such thing as a bad mistake. There's mistakes. So like, for instance, let's say you have a decision You make a decision, it turns out good, great, okay, you're going to repeat that.
Right.
Let's say you make a decision and it turns out bad. Oh, that wasn't a fun experience. You can learn and improve upon that so it doesn't happen next time. And being able to learn from your mistakes is super important. And honestly, that's why I've really never had a bad experience on YouTube. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
So are there any misconceptions you want to address about being a YouTuber?
I think it's pretty similar when it comes to the other side, the bad sides of YouTube and everything like that. But the biggest misconception, I think, is the workload. Everyone thinks that if it's a 10-minute video, it takes you 10 minutes.
Right.
And by God, is that entirely the exact freaking opposite.
Oh, I wish it were true.
Oh, dude, imagine. I would have like 3 videos a day, bro. Like, I would have like 20 videos a day. You know how much AdSense I could get from that? No. but
yeah.
That really just comes down to people that aren't in the video or creative space. They don't understand how video works and how it takes time to edit, record, come up with the idea. It's a very long haul, and being able to have the patience for that is so damn important. And I think a lot of people lack, including myself, because sometimes I just sit there. I'm just like, I'm not getting the numbers I want to get. But you also have to remember you're never going to be getting the numbers you want to get because they're consistently improving and they're consistently changing. It's, once you hit 100 subscribers, 1 subscriber doesn't seem like it's all that much. Once you hit 1,000 subscribers, 10 subscribers doesn't seem like it's all that much. Once you hit 10,000 subscribers, 100 subscribers doesn't seem like it's all that much. And it just keeps going on and on from there. And it's just a matter of having that consistent perspective of what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Keep doing it.
Yeah. Never lose sight of the fact that behind that number, there's an actual person giving you their time. So, I think a lot of people overlook that, and it just becomes a number, or when, like, it's all a numbers game, which is definitely not the way it's supposed to be.
I've struggled with that myself personally a while, but at this point, my only goal, I actually had a conversation with a YouTube representative guy. They did some channel checkup, which is pretty cool that YouTube does that. It was pretty useless though, to be honest. But by that
cool,
point,
but it's pretty useless.
It was cool the fact that YouTube did it and everything.
Yeah.
But he's asking me, what are your goals? Where do you want to be? I'm like, I just want to be a point where I can make a living doing this. That's it. He's like, oh, but I need to have like a specific number here because I'm writing it down. I'm like, really, man? Like, I don't have a specific number. I could care less. I mean, yeah, it's great if I could have a silver play button. Woohoo. Yeah. For me personally, it's about making a living doing what I love. I could literally, if it was 10 people that actually genuinely cared about what I was doing and I could make a living off of those 10 people, I would feel so happy that I could make those 10 people's lives better. I could help them. And one kind of benefit of YouTube, or one tip I would give, is provide value to people. You've got to provide value, because whether that be teaching someone something, entertaining them in some way, bringing them up when they're down, there's multiple ways of providing value. But just find whatever it is that you can provide to the world and do that. Any business, any big company out there, there's a problem and you offer a solution to your customer. And I don't want it to make it seem like it's this corporate, like, ooh, we're going to make money off of people by teaching them things. But really, when it comes down to it, if you want to build any following and make a living doing it, you have to be helpful. You have to help people.
That's really, really awesome insight, Nic. And again, I want to thank you for being on the show, taking the time to be on the show and talking to us about this. But before we close the show, what's one piece of advice you give to people who are just thinking of starting a channel?
This is something that I feel very strongly about. If you're thinking about doing it, either you do it or don't do it. Don't sit in this gray zone. It needs to be black or white, 1 or 0, binary. Yeah. You need to be a binary person when it comes to creating content. You can't be on and off. You can't be whatever. I mean, if you're just doing it for fun, you're just doing it for fun. But don't expect a successful end result where you want to be if you're only giving it your half effort. Either go all in or don't do it at all. Because there's a lot of people that are telling me, oh, I don't know if I'm going to have the time. Either you're going to make the time to do it or you're not going to do it. That's hands down the single best piece of advice I could give for anyone trying to create content online, period, or anything, really. I think people just need to be more binary about their decisions. Yes or no. Stop. If you want to think about it a while, sure, but the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be. The more competition is going to be out there. The longer you're going to be sitting and, thinking about your YouTube channel name or your banner. Just freaking throw a video out there and keep making videos. Just stop waiting, honestly.
Stop waiting. Yeah, definitely. Stop waiting. You heard from Nic Pachunka, guys. This has been Creator Spotlight, Episode 3. Hope you guys learned a lot from Nic in this episode. And this has been Paco for Catalyze. I'll catch you next time.